And I'm joined once again, thankfully, by Mr. Jay Buchanan of Rival Sense. How you doing, Jay, man?
I'm very good, Lee. It's good to be here with you.
It's good to speak to you again, mate. Obviously, just a few months ago, we caught up about all things Darkfighter. Now you guys are set to release the second part of the story of Lightbringer out on October 20th. So thanks for joining me again. And fortunately for me, like Lightbringer, I've had a few weeks to soak it up, like I did with Darkfighter. And obviously, this being very much a sister album to Darkfighter. But it also really does seem like the next part of the story rather than it being the other side to me. How was it for yourselves when you were separating out the tracks between the two?
I think that's a fair assessment, and I would agree with you. I don't see it as a part one. Well, it's like when you look at the Darkfighter, that side of the collection,
Hmm.
you put the whole thing together as one collection. But when you look at Darkfighter, the narrative is very different. You definitely get the sense of the protagonist, like um, pulling themselves up by the bootstraps and persevering, through everything. When you look at the all of the songs and the arc of the story for Darkfighter, I feel like with Lightbringer, it's very different. Lightbringer is through Lightbringer um, is through the lens of, I think, introspection.
Hmm.
The protagonist going through on Lightbringer is much more about the songs of experience, of experiencing, and looking at things in a very different way. And I believe that the opening track provides a lot of that context, you know, because that opener, the Darkfighter
Yeah.
track on Lightbringer, it's so completely different than anything we've done, and so completely different than anything on Darkfighter, especially there's nothing but breath.
Yeah.
It's breath. So all of that immediacy and all of that crisis that pervades itself in the Darkfighter side of the collection, um, immediately you're met with context, as soon as the Lightbringer album begins.
It seemed to me like Darkfighter, the track Darkfighter, the opening track was like a really almost like a bridging piece between both two tones between Darkfire album and Lightbringer. Like it seemed
Exactly. Yeah.
like that bridging journey almost with it.
That's certainly how it feels to me in the way that we placed it, because
Mm.
of the way the story gets told, and the amount of um, just wiping the chalkboard clean
Yeah.
and beginning anew. That's really what that track serves for.
It almost had like a kind of I don't know. I was chatting to my mate Ryan, who was chat. You spoke to Ryan for Darkfighter for his podcast, and I know he's chatting to Scott tonight. And we were talking about the album, and I was saying to Ryan, it was almost like a kind of although the song's not necessarily the albums aren't necessarily about it, although you touch upon it with Dark here, but like a grief thing. It felt like the Darkfighter was that kind of initial stage of having to fight those dark moments, a lot darker and solemn in its content, and then like you said, the second part being more of that reflective part once you get a certain amount away from the initial impact.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good assessment.
And like I say, Darkfighter, great way to open the album. I mean, it's not the classic album opener at 9 minutes long, but why do anything by halves? And when it fits in as well as it does, I mean, I've made a point of trying to soak up Lightbringer as a separate entity, and then obviously knowing that it's part of the continuation, then listen to it all together. And it works both ways. It's such a great song. I mean, your vocals on that, man, just sound incredible. I love it
Well,
when that chorus kicks in. It sounds amazing.
thank you. Yeah, I think that partitioning, with our last conversation, Lee,
Hmm.
choosing to partition the two collections specifically was for that purpose, to create a forced refractory period. Instead of just binging the entire thing,
Hmm.
um, releasing the two albums, a good 4 months apart, um, would provide that context, and provide that division and that partition of the two statements, and help them to hopefully live on their own. you know. And I know that moving forward, people are going to digest these tracks in whichever way they see fit, you know.
Yeah, of course.
That's not for us to decide, obviously. But, I feel that the two statements, living on their own is the healthiest thing. Um, and you know, like the way that Lightbringer ends is the direct opposite of how Darkfighter ends. It is that the two tracks couldn't be more different, you know. Darkfighter ends in decimation, you know, decimation of the spirit, and Lightbringer ends with the exact opposite, you know.
Yeah. And when the final track, Mosaic, is stunning. I mean, when you sing, you know, that lyric of you know, all the broken pieces fit together and step back away and the lines disappear. It's just, it says so much with so few words. It said so much about, I think it's one of those lyrics where everybody can put their own personal experience on it. You know, it's obviously you've wrote it from a point of view of where you're coming from, but I think it's one of those lyrics where everybody could put their own times onto it.
Well, I mean, the you can suffer from the paralysis of analysis,
Mm.
you know, and getting into the minutia, and especially for us culturally, what we were going through during the writing of this record here in the United States, things that you and I, um, when you and I were speaking last, you know, I talked about all of the cultural mitosis and the division that was going on here in the United States. Um, and all of those dividing lines. I think that Mosaic very specifically states that. Like, if you look for the lines, you'll see them. But if you can just back away, you can see how all of us are much more alike than we are different. You know, and I think that um, I was very happy when that song came to me, because it felt like a fever breaking, you know, all of the very, very intense lyrics, all of the very, very intense songwriting, the intense sessions, the tragedy that took place in my life and many other people's life. Mosaic was the last song I wrote for these sessions. And I knew that as soon as I put that song together, and then I brought it over to Scott, and he wrote that guitar motif that, you know, the song starts with. And he added that wonderful arpeggiated guitar part. As soon as that song was together, I knew I didn't need to say anymore. I knew that the final statement was there.
Did you always, like you said, like, as soon as that was written, then that was it? You knew that was always going to be the final track. There was no way to end it on
Yeah,
it.
well, and I knew that there was I didn't need to say anymore. I knew you know, I knew that I didn't need to say anymore. The last couple of songs that came together were the Darkfighter track. In the last full band session, we tracked Darkfighter, and we tracked Mosaic and parts of Redemption, in terms of all of us, you know, playing together.
Yeah.
And I knew that with these tracks, that like the finishing statement, like the dismount of all of the heavy subject matter and all of the, you know, the heavy experiences in making these records. Like I said, it just felt like a fever breaking in a way.
You felt like you were stepping away from that.
What's that?
Do you feel like you were stepping, like by the end of it, that you processed and gone through it by the point of Mosaic, sorry, that you'd...
You know, that's an interesting word, process. I mean, to tell you the truth, Lee, I don't know how much of it I processed at all. You know, I don't know. I lived it. I lived these things. And, you know, like when I say, oh, the protagonist, well, I'm really talking about me. you know, obviously the Darkfighter and the Lightbringer, that's me. You know, I'm writing, I've written more autobiographically on these two records than any Rival Sons album for sure. And but I think having lived through it, how much I've processed any of it, it's tough. That would be tough to put into words, you know.
Yeah.
But I do know that with writing a song like Mosaic, I just felt like, okay, I need to stop writing. This is enough.
Yeah.
This is fine. This says this is the ending of the collection now.
That makes sense. So for me, another track on the album, on this side of the collection, I really enjoyed was Redemption. It almost felt like a sister track to Rapture in its tonality. Where did Redemption come from? And
well, Redemption, there are two songs, you know, there's really sister songs. You have Mercy, and then you have Redemption. And I know they're right next to each other, you know. But with Mercy touches on and identifies inherited trauma.
The lyrics that talk about somebody hurt you, now you're going to hurt someone. Somebody hurt you, now you're going to hurt someone. So, you know, try a little mercy. You know that anger moves like electricity. You know that anger moves like electricity. So have a little mercy. Mercy never let you down. That's the least amount of lyrics I've ever written, I think, for any song. Like, and that's it. So Redemption, it goes further to illustrate a story of inherited trauma.
Yeah.
You know, the protagonist there, you know, through a very, very rough childhood, being forced to, you know, live in his head or to feel lesser than. And so he carries around this quiet rage, you know. And same thing with the woman in the story, you know. She had a child very, very young, and then that scarred her, you know, for good. And so they both carry this pain. And Redemption was one, you know. I love that song. It's if I've ever written an Americana, you know, an Americana sort of a song, I suppose that would be a contender. But I love that song. It's very, very it's very dear to me.
You can hear that in your vocal, man. Your vocal's full of emotion on that one in particular, I thought.
I'm glad you feel that way. I sang it very, very quietly. Very quietly.
I think that's a skill when you do that. I mean, you've done that on other tracks as well. When you sung quietly, it does bring people in because, don't get me wrong, you know, like on Darkfighter, the title, the actual track Darkfighter, when you're belting that out, I was saying earlier, some of the best vocals I've heard on is on that. But also equally, when you sing quietly and bring people in, I think that's a really powerful way to do it as well.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you feel that way. Screaming and shouting is one thing, but singing is another thing.
Definitely. So, of all the tracks on the Lightbringer, why did you guys decide to release "Sweet Life" as the first track from that collection?
Well, we felt that it rounded out and provided levity to that collection in Darkfighter. That's really what it was. You know, we had other bangers and we had other songs on Lightbringer that are quite heavy, you know. Obviously, Mercy.
Yeah.
Mercy is a big song. It's very heavy. And then Before the Fire is a song that drives. It's very, you know, that's a big track, you know. But it was there to, I would say that more than any track on either of the two records, Sweet Life is much more akin to hearkening back to like where Rival Sons was, 10
Yeah.
years ago. It's very much, and like, and I'm not one to look back, and for the most part, I love what we do now and who we are now far more than who we were when we first got started. But I was the guy who brought Sweet Life into the band. Like, hey, here's this song I wrote, and just thinking like, well, it was really just out of a desire and of going, I think I'm going to write a garage rock song now, So then I brought that song into the session, and then Scott wrote that great riff,
Yeah.
dun, dun, diddly, dun, which is just like early Rival Sons and Scott Holiday, like to a T.
Oh, yeah.
So it fit perfectly. But it was really, to answer your question, it was to provide that levity, and just it felt better to put that on Lightbringer than on Darkfighter.
It makes more sense to be on Lightbringer, definitely. And like you're saying, like hearing, it could have easily come off of Head Down or Great Western Valkyrie. It really could have done.
Yeah. That's how I feel about it too.
It's definitely, particularly Head Down, I feel it's just got that kind of, like you say, that more garagey rock thing that you did on
It does. It feels like a Head Down song to me. And when I was writing it, I didn't feel that way. I just sat down and wrote it really with, guitars and keyboards. It was very much, it was a little bit mellower, and it was definitely like an Animals, sort of a Seeds, Animals, sort of a vibe to it. But once the band got a hold of it, they souped it up the way they always do.
Nice. So, like you say, in a few weeks' time, you'll be over here in the UK doing the shows across the UK. I'll be seeing you in Cambridge and come down that day. I think I mentioned that last time we spoke. And
Yeah.
I think Cambridge Straight actually falls on the same date that Lightbringer is officially released, 20th, isn't it?
On the 20th, that's correct.
Yeah. So that'll be the official thing. But with the set list, I'm assuming it's going to be Darkfighter and Lightbringer heavy on this tour.
I think that this tour is going to be heavily Darkfighter and Lightbringer, and then we'll do that'll take up a good hour of our set, and then the second hour, 45 minutes or whatever, that'll give us time to play our greatest hits, or some of them anyways. And I think that we still talk about that because as an artist, like we're goodness, what are we, 16 years, something like that, into this. And I think that with a lot of bands, they rest on their laurels, which is fine. But I feel like with Rival Sons, like we've pushed our own boundaries out so far with these two records, that this truly is our identity. This is who we are right now. And I realized that, maybe for some diehard fans out there, a lot of this material might be a little hard to digest, might be a little bit heady, because I know that some of our fans, they just want to drink a couple of pints and get rowdy, and that's part of music. Rock music is a perfect soundtrack for that, and that's part of the whole scene. But I know that for me, this current identity that we're with these two records, like this is actually the sound of who we are right now.
Yeah.
And I know that for me, artistically, who we are right now takes precedence over who we were.
Definitely. I think you should.
But I also, yeah, that's just, that's the sound of who we are. And we need to live who we are now. We need to live that right now, because in a couple of years we won't be here, and then we'll be on to something different. But this is the time for us to wear this identity, and other things will take place moving forward, just as previous identities took place in previous years.
Yeah. It's all about, like you say, representing what you're doing now. I think the more expansive sound that you guys had, like you say, it's think it started on Feral Roots. I think that's fair to say. Feral Roots started to broaden that horizon, if you like, of what Rival Sun's sound was a bit more. Started on Hollow Bones, I guess, but more so I found it on Feral Roots, and then even more so with Darkfighter and Lightbringer.
Yeah, let's start on Hollow Bones. You know, we went far out on Hollow Bones, and I think Hollow Bones is actually a very underrated record. You know, it just didn't get the push. But that's a great record. Songs like Tied Up,
Oh, yeah.
And Fade Out. And like these are good tracks. These are good tracks, you know. But I feel that Feral Roots was a true, very collected, and very deliberate statement. Feral Roots was such a deliberate and focused collection that for us going that far and realizing it's like going further and further out, you know, into the deep end and realizing like, oh yeah, no, you can swim.
Yeah.
So go as deep as you want and dive down and touch the bottom if you can. I think it certainly gave us an appetite to go dramatically further and see how far we can go and see how far out to sea we can go and still keep our ship together, you know. And it definitely felt like that was like what we had to do, you know, of like having known better. It felt like we could do, it would be a crime to do anything else than to go further in that direction, just to see what we're capable of, because we wanted to forge our own path as much as possible. And I know that for management or for our label or other people, well, we aren't necessarily making it easy for them because we're trying to forge new territory. You know, we're trying to forge new identity and go into uncharted territory for ourselves. But artistically, you just don't really have a choice. You have to do that.
I think any band that I've really truly loved has always sort of done exactly what you're saying. They've always pushed themselves beyond their realms, gone and explored different territories. I think that's the nature of any artist. I know my wife's a portrait artist by her trade, but she's, you know, she'll go and pick up other mediums and experiment with those, and it's a similar thing, you know.
Yeah, you have to do that. You got to whip your horse and see how fast it can run. Otherwise, you'll never know.
That's yeah, man. And like you say, between the two collections there, between Darkfighter and Lightbringer, you've got quite a, just between those two albums, you've already got quite an expansive sound. I mean, Dark Side, sorry, is easily probably one of the heaviest riffs to ever come from any Rival Sons album, I would say, compared to
Certainly. I think with the song Darkfighter, I had come up with that motif that I had worked on that song for about 3 years before I brought it to Scott. And then he and I worked on it. And then I had to go back and arrange the song and write all of the melodies and lyrics and everything. And so collectively that song was worked on. We worked on that song it was in the works for almost 7 years.
Wow.
And because I had written that opening line, that dissonant riff,
Yeah.
dun, 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 bun, and all these other parts, you know. And I was trying to make like a classical sort of a piece. So then when I brought that to Scott, back when we had started the Feral Roots writing, I brought that to him. Then he had a couple of parts that were in that same tuning, and we put them together, and right away they just worked right away.
Wow.
And then once we went into the studio, all of that was tracked, all of the music was tracked live, you know, all of these amazing guitar solos and all of that crazy the crazy acoustic jam in the middle and all of the drums, everything, all of that was done on the floor. That was all one take, you
Wow.
know. And then he went back over and he played his electric over, but it was the same thing.
Hmm.
So much of that song was like we sketched out the movements, the A and the B, with a big long jam in the middle. But it's like we had a rough sketch, but then it was really uh, Scott and Miley interacting that made that middle, that jam part, you know,
Made that
what
flow.
it is. Yeah, it was really, I was right there because I was sitting there playing all of the Spanish guitar, the nylon guitar, while Scott was playing the steel string, and it really went down that way. You know, it was that's a very uh, it's for real. You know, that's not studio magic. Like it really, the tracks were really laid down that way.
I think you can always tell as well when tracks are laid down on the floor and when they're not. You know, you could there's some great studio wizardry that you can do to make it try and sound stylistically that it's like on the floor. But I think there's a definite vibe that gets captured when it is done properly on the floor, organically.
Ideally, you know, I've worked with other producers. They are so good at it that like you wouldn't know. Where you can listen to it and you go like, that's definitely live. But I'm just thinking like, well, I was there for not Rival Sons. Rival Sons, we don't fuck around when it comes to that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Neither does Dave Cobb. It's like when we say we're doing it live, like that means we did it live, you know. But there are a lot of talented engineers, producers, and editors that can work some serious studio magic out there. It's mind-boggling, you know.
It's crazy what people can do in the studio. It's crazy the sounds that you can get, and like you say, it's I guess I don't know. I mean, I've always been more of my studio knowledge is very limited. You know, I've done raw demos for my bands, and that's about it. But to hear what friends of mine who are doing them, people I get to chat to, like yourself, the stuff that they do manage to achieve, and yeah, now I think about back on what you said. There's definitely been records where I thought they were all in the room and jamming it out and what have you, and then they've gone, oh no, man, we all had to, especially in the last couple of years with COVID and everything, people saying, oh no, we had to build up layer by layer.
Right. And that happens, man. I mean, you know, where would the Queen albums be? You know, without the studio magic, like, you know, or Steely Dan, like all of those records, like all of that stuff, like ABBA. Look at ABBA.
Yeah.
You know, it's like studio magic is real. It's like, you know, there's something to it. That's just not who we are. And I don't say that to look down our nose at any, you know, because there are plenty of rock bands where everything is.
Oh yeah.
And I've sat in on sessions or, you know, sang with other bands where every little thing is edited, every little breath, every little thing. Solos being put together, vocals being comped, drums being comped. There are a lot of bands that do that, and as long as that's fine for them, okay. That's not Rebel Sons at all. That's certainly not what we do.
Yeah,
You know, we've got all of our sandwiches still have the crust on them. You know, that's for sure.
I like that. It sounds cool. But yeah, like you say, it's just what works for you guys. And you guys, you know, you've worked with Dave Cobb for long enough now to know that, you know, whether he's gonna, he's almost, to me, seems like I mean, there might come a time that you work with someone else. I don't know. That's not my decision, but I can't see a time where you would need to.
Well, I mean, this makes 9 records with Cobb. 9 fucking records. That's more records than he's made with anybody. Cobb's truly like he is family. And I'm not sure what the future holds. You know, I can't speak for him and certainly not going to speak for the rest of the band, but we're family. And whether or not we keep working together, it would be because it serves the music for us to do that.
Yeah.
You know? And if it works, it works, you know? And certainly, I mean, you know, I value our relationship and I value our musical relationship. So it certainly isn't broke. And I think that us going out on a limb with these last two records. I know we exhausted him. I know oh my, we just about burned Cobb out because he's looking at it going like, you guys want to do what? You need another session? You want to make a 9-minute song? But he understands that we needed to do it. So, he's respectful and supportive enough where it wasn't, he's not going to sit there and say like, you can't do this. You should not do this, but he was instrumental obviously in the production of this record.
Yeah, of course, man. And across these two records, like we mentioned the live shows earlier, and the set naturally is the way it should be. Is going to be very Darkfighter, very Lightbringer heavy in terms of the songs on it. Are there any songs off of the two releases that in particular you're really looking forward to play? I know you've done some shows in the States and you've done some of the songs live already, but to bring them to a UK audience.
Well, really all of them. I think that I would like to showcase both of these records. And I mean, look, we still have a few weeks. In my opinion, and maybe I'm talking out of school, but if the rest of the bands has the stones to do it, that's what we'll do. If it's up to me, we're definitely playing both of those songs. And so if the rest of the guys have the stones to follow through and do it that way, then it won't be a problem. But we still got to talk about it. And at the same time as well, we've been into switching up our set list lately.
Nice.
We were on a 6-week run with
with Stone Temple Pilots and Interpol and Smashing Pumpkins. Was that the one?
Smashing Pumpkins, yeah. Smashing Pumpkins were headlining. And we switched up our set list every day. And it was very, very liberating. And I think that we're going to be doing more of that. And so
wicked.
I think that while I can say that these sets will definitely be Darkfighter and Lightbringer heavy, I don't know that we'll do like the both complete records. It would be great if we did. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know what we'll be doing, In fact, the band needs to get on the phone a little bit later today because we're going to be talking about it. So.
Cool. Nice one. But how did you find like switching up the set list every night? Did you find that, a cool thing to do? Did you find it?
Absolutely. I've been wanting to do this for years. And finally, the other guys got into it. And I'm just so happy about it. It's provided some of the greatest moments on stage I've had with the band,
Nice.
Some of because you need to switch it up to keep things fresh. And I think that the band is definitely, it's never a good look for me to sit here and be critical of my own bands, but I feel that sometimes it's easy to fall into a routine with that, and to just play that same set every night and to try to perfect that set and do it again, which is cool. I mean, that's what theater does, that's what stand-up comedians do. It's still art because you're trying to refine.
Yeah,
you're doing your best to refine a statement. So I mean, I can't fault anybody for that. I can't fault the band for us doing things that way. It's just expressing different things and shaking the set list up and providing a different map nightly. It's looking like that has a lot more to do with our future, than the way we've gone about things previously.
That's cool. How did you find people's responses to the new material? I'm guessing you played some stuff off Lightbringer in these recent days, not just Sweet Life.
Oh, really? The only song that we've played live so far has been Sweet Life, because that single was just launched. Yeah. And I think we're going to be launching Mercy coming up here, I think next week. Ooh. So that's going to be hitting digital streaming platforms and everything next week. But no, we haven't been performing. We've talked about maybe playing Mosaic and but we're going to be hitting all of this material coming up very soon, That's
cool, man. I'm looking forward to hearing these songs live. And when you come over, you've got another. We were talking before we hit record on the interview, such, and you asking me about bands to go check out. But equally, anytime I've seen you guys live, 9 times out of 10, I'm checking out a new band, new support act, and this is no exception with LA Edwards. It wasn't an artist I was familiar with when they were announced as supporting the UK tour. When I go check them out, and I'm really enjoying what I'm hearing, so I'm looking forward to their set as well. But
it's a good solid band.
Yeah. So like along the way, seeing you guys several times, through you guys have discovered bands like Blues Pills and Sheepdogs and bands like that. Is it always important to you to have? Do you have input on the support band? Is it something that's
Yeah, of course. That's the support band is completely that's our decision. We decide every time. Always. We always decide. We handpick whoever opens the shows.
That's cool. I mean, last time I just started listening to Dirty Honey, and then they got announced to support you on their last run of shows when you did the Pressure and Time when I last saw you. And now I thought that was a perfect pairing. And then same with Blues Pills. It's just, so I'm really looking forward to LA Edwards. I've been checking out their stuff, so I'm looking forward to that, man.
Yeah, Blues Pills are great. I remain friends with like Alan, and I just think they're fantastic. They've changed personnel a little bit over the years, and the Blues Pills are a great band.
They're another one you were talking about earlier about progression. Their last record that I've got over there is so far removed from the first two. And
exactly.
It's great to see that expansion from them. And I'm really looking forward to seeing. I've heard rumors that they've been in the studio, and obviously Ellen's about to have a little one at the moment, I think. So it would be nice to see what comes from them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to coming over to the UK and heading through Europe and a lot. I just got word this morning that Paris sold out. There are a lot of sold out shows, so far. And I think that they're just going to continue to sell out the closer to the shows we get. So I would be very surprised if London didn't sell out very quickly. But we'll see. Yeah, the Roundhouse. But I'm looking forward to it. On Lightbringer, did you have a favorite track in particular?
It was a tough call. I think if you
this is early on. I've only done a couple of interviews, and there are going to be many, many more. But I always want to know what people think.
It was really because I thought Darkfighter itself was a great opener. I thought that was really cool. But I think if you had to push me on it now, I would probably go with Redemption if I had to say a favorite.
Redemption. Well, that's certainly one of my favorites. Good to hear.
Do you have a favorite on it? I know, see, it's like hard for me to ask you that, but
no, I mean, for me, listen, Lee, like one day I like one song, the next day I like another song, and then the day after that I hate all of them. So it's I'm looking forward to this album being out, and these two collections being finished, to their completion, them being out into the world, because we worked on them for a very, very long time.
So
can you hear that back there? That's called an ice cream truck.
Hey, that's a proper ice cream truck, that is. Proper ice cream truck.
You guys have those over there?
Yeah, we have those. Not quite as cool.
They drive through the neighborhood with pictures of different ice cream pops and things on the side and candies.
So sure your boy will be going over there, won't they?
What's that?
Sure your son will be running over there, won't he?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Favorite songs. For me, my wife loves Before the Fire.
Okay, cool.
She absolutely loves that track. I like that track a lot too.
That's a good track.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's tough to say. Just looking forward to, like I said, I'm looking forward to these albums being out and just being able to play them.
So obviously last time we spoke, when we were saying there was the future hold, obviously you were looking forward from obviously Darkfighter being released to Lightbringer being released. So what does the next year look like in the Rival Sons? Is it just touring, supporting these?
We're going to be touring. I have a lot of solo work with other projects that I'll be working on, but for the most part, like we're You know, I think we're taking January and February off, so I'll be working on my projects.
Oh, cool. Are you looking at releasing more solo?
Yeah, more solo music and
Nice.
hopefully working out something for um, my electronic project, The Obstacle. That's a great project, but we're just so busy. There are a lot of things to do. But but fortunately, I'll have a little bit of time through December, through February to work on some of those things, to get those things going because Rival Sons is going to be picking back up in March, and we're going to have a very busy year. I know we're going to be touring a ton, so which is great. You know, we're still going to be an album cycle for Lightbringer.
Nice one, man. Well, Jay, thank you for your time once again, man. I really appreciate you chatting to me, and looking forward to seeing you when you come to Cambridge, and looking forward to that show, man. So thanks again, dude.
Fantastically. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and we'll see you in Cambridge.
Yeah, see you there, buddy. At the beginning of the interview, I'm going to play "Sweet Life" with it being the single from the album at the moment. But what song would you like us to play at the end of the interview? Bear in mind, it's going to be a couple of weeks until we get to air this.
Well, your favorite.
The Redemption.
Yeah, you wanted it. Yeah, that's this is your show. If that's your favorite, play your favorite.
Oh, bless you, man. Okay, well, we'll go with Redemption, and I'll see you in a few weeks in Cambridge, man. Thanks again for your time, Jay.
Take care of yourself, Lee.
You too, man. Take care. Bye, mate.